Welcome to the David Spisak Show. I'm very thankful to have you here today. And I believe, in fact, I'm incredibly confident that you're going to really enjoy today's guest. Jasen Rice is the founder and CEO of Lot Pop, which just celebrated its 11th anniversary in business. And that says a lot, especially because in the retail automotive space, sometimes on the dealership side, and maybe more at times on the tech side, you see companies come and go, technology come and go. This is a company that's built to last. And I believe that's the case because of leadership. And that starts with Jasen. Jasen, I'm very pleased to have you on today. Thank you for taking the time.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And yeah, it's been a long road, but it flew by fast, 11 years.
So Jasen, I'm going to start out with this. I don't know how long exactly humans have been wandering the earth. I can't tell you exactly. I could guess it's been millions of years, 5-10 million years or more. I do know this. I know that if you go back in the ancient times, that, back to the Greeks, right? Back in the times of Socrates and Plato, that it's well documented that one thing that human beings have been searching for since literally the beginning of time is happiness. I bring that up because I've been in this business for now, I'm in my 45th year. And similarly, since the beginning of time, at least since I've been in this, dealerships have been trying to figure out the used car department as much as humans are trying to figure out happiness, right? Some dealers would argue if they could figure that out, they would actually attain happiness and probably a lot more profitability. So I just want to start out with a very simple, but maybe somewhat loaded question. What is it about the used car department that makes this so complex, difficult, challenging for dealers to A, figure out, and B, become sustainably successful?
It comes down to, it's one of the most, I'd say, fun and challenging departments because you got freedom. You're not tied up with the OEM's regulations of rebates and incentives. You do push to, if you're a franchise dealer, you push trades, you step up on them to get them as trade-ins for used cars. And then all of a sudden, then you're buying from, you got all different sources of acquiring vehicles. You got all different mindsets of how and why to acquire them and how to price them. And then you got the leads on top of it. It's just really I love the freedom of it because they've got the blank checkbook and can do what they want with it. And unlike the OEM tie downs, but with that, what's that go with great power comes great responsibility. Yeah. So there's a lot of responsibility to it. One of the concepts that we push, and I'll fall on the sword for this one, is, what we call the first 30 strategy. If you just increase the amount of cars you sell in that first 30 days, our goal for dealers is to sell at least 60 to 70% in the first 30 days. That's where you're going to get the gross. And, I realized that, and I've been preaching that since, I guess 13 years ago, because I started with Dale Pollock in 2005. Now, if you guys don't know, he's the one that created vAuto, but I was the first employee brought on. And back then it was called Empower Auto. And we actually scored your cars out and how you owned them to wholesale. But then we realized you're there to retail cars. We started changing to retail data, changed to vAuto to get off Empower from BMW M series. And we start looking at retail data. So I literally stepped in thousands of dealerships over about an 8-year period with vAuto. And over the last year, we've probably done 20 to 30,000 retail price changes a month, helping with that. And it all came down to, prior to leaving vAuto, I'm looking at the successful dealers and the struggling dealers. And it came down to the successful dealers just sold the more cars fresh than the other dealers. The dealers that were struggling, they think, well, ever since I had to race to the bottom, I can never make any gross. I would show them, hey, it's your gross problem isn't because you're cheap selling fresh inventory. Your gross is problem because you're selling 40% over 40 days old or 30% over 60 days old, where you're losing 200 a pop. Stop doing that and do more of the $3,000 deals, and your grosses will go back up. But that's the challenge, is because, again, when you get a fresh car, you want to give it a shot and price it up and let it sit for a little bit. Plus turnaround time's a struggle.
So I always find it interesting when I have the opportunity to speak to great minds, people that have tremendous experience, and really speak to a lot of substance, like real world, real life stuff, and not kind of marketing fluff. And it's one of many things that I like and appreciate about you, Jasen. I have fun with that because I'm the guy on the backside, right? I'm the one that when somebody deploys whatever they deploy, I see how the story ends. I see how the movie ends. Why is that? Because I've been studying operational data. I've been
Yeah.
studying patterns of success, profitability, both from humans, technology, both with humans as well as organizations like dealerships, including the technology and the process they use. I
Mhm.
bring that up because, you know, your experience, your acumen, and just the fact that you've been in literally thousands of stores and you've noticed and paid attention, you've been able to also detect similar patterns. One of
Mhm.
the things that I touch on over and over, what data will prove, and it's irrefutable, it's this never fails, this test never fails. Show me, and I was just doing this with a large group yesterday, what percentage of your vehicles in stock right now have sold in less than 30 days? What percentage? Show me a store where 20 or 30% of their cars are selling in under 30 days. I'll show you a store that's hemorrhaging money, not just gross, but has no chance. I don't care how much they pump each other up. There's a 0% chance they're ever going to be profitable. Show me a store that has 80% plus in terms of cars sold under 30. And I'll show you not just a store that is way more successful, profitable, but I'll show you a store that's actually paying attention to their market and understands what to stock. Second thing is the great Dale Pollock. I'm not going to say I have a love-hate relationship. I have a love-wrestle relationship
Mhm.
with Dale. I love Dale, and I think he's just absolutely iconic in the used car arena. However, I think that when people talk about sales velocity and some of the other things that have been thrown about in association with Viano, I think they're oftentimes misunderstood. It's not that Mr. Pollack had any bad intent. It's not like he spoke a mistruth, but you could very well misunderstand or misconstrue. Here's what I mean, Jason. Sales velocity, which we've been talking about for years, sales velocity is a no brainer if you have the right car or your market that's at the right price, that's allowing you to get the majority of the VDPs. It's very analogous to an auction. You have one person over here that they put their cars in the auction, and because of process, they don't get their cars there in time. They don't have the right miles. It's not compelling inventory. They have a 30% sell-through rate, or one or two people show up at the auction. They're not going to be successful. But yet you have somebody else. When you see an auction with a 60, 70% sell-through rate, everybody's going to go home happy if they're a seller. Do you agree with that, Jason? Sales
Yeah.
velocity happens with it, whether you want it to or not, if you have the right car. And it's impossible if you don't. So that
Well,
money
here,
thing is a big deal.
I'll debate that a little bit with you. And I want to go down
Please do.
the strategies of Viato, or, what's been preached over the years too. But the fact of, here's the thing with, when it comes to inventory though, the wrong marketing of a great car can make it sit, and a good marketing of the wrong car can make it sell fast. And a lot of people have very, very small control of what ends up on their lot. Cause think about it. Most dealers want 80% of their inventory to be trades. We were talking about that at Used Car Palooza, right? We want as many trades as possible, vehicles in my service drive. I want to, but the thing is, we don't know what trade-in's showing up on my lot. I can't show up today, say, hey, I'm going to appraise 10 cars, take in 8 of them there, and I'm going to bring them in at 80% of market. A freaking purple PT Cruiser comes in on your lot, on your oldest car in your lot, you're trading a purple PT Cruiser, right? So that's not the best car to have, but a good marketing and pricing and photos and descriptions and a good attack of that car can make it turn faster than that
But
right
it's,
car that I
but
priced
it's,
too long. So,
but it's, I don't think so.
well, not only that, well, I'm using that as an example, but two, if I go through 2,000 cars running through the auction, I pick out 200 that I want, put exact numbers that I want on it to buy it for, and I get outbid on 198 of them and I only get 2, right? Well, I need 20 cars. Then I'm calling up Enterprise saying, hey, I need 10 of those Malibus, right? And so, yes, the right car is going to turn, but if you don't handle it right and price too hard, too long, photos, it's going to sit. So,
Okay.
but
But
second thing I would,
hold up.
all right.
Well, I'm going to spar back with you. I think that to some degree we're saying the same thing, But what you layered on top of that, I'm not going to say that that's wrong, but I'm certainly going to say it's not completely right. And I'll tell you why. I can't take a crappy car that's the wrong car in the market. It's priced, it's too high. I've got my market, I've just shown this to a group of dealers. In your market, the average car is selling for $23,500. Okay. Your average cost is $27,800. Every time you see a car that breaks that line and it's 2,000, 3,000 higher, VDPs plummet. The average days to sale goes from 11 or 15 up to 45 to 62. Floor plan expense explodes. Sales comp explodes. Advertising cost goes up. And yes, if you have fantastic marketing, great pictures and everything else, could I move the needle from 60 to 45 or 45 to 38? Maybe. Is that going to turn that into an under 30 car? I don't buy it. I don't think so. The car's either compelling or it's not. So you're right. Give me a great car. And if somebody mucks it up on the marketing, it will absolutely slow it down. I agree with you. And if you give me a not so great car and you have fantastic marketing and merchandising and pricing, you can speed that up. But that's the old proverbial lipstick on a pig, isn't it? You can make it big a little prettier, and it's still a pig.
We'll go down this path. This is fun. So here's the thing though. Probably only 20% of dealers' inventory is those cars, right? And we all chase that one off, that 10, 15-year-old car with 50,000 miles.
We shouldn't.
15, oh, huh?
We shouldn't.
We shouldn't chase the one-offs?
Oh, you shouldn't chase the cars that are historically prone and have been validated with data to not sell historically.
No, I'm talking about the good. No, we're chasing the one-offs, the 10-year-old car with 50,000 miles, right? We're all chasing those. Okay. But here's the problem with the one-offs, those really good cars. Or for the dealership, legacy-wise, it can be very bad. Here's why. That right car, you're going to get somebody 2 to 4 hours away from you driving. If somebody's coming 2 to 4 hours away, they're probably going to make sure their financing's lined up. They're probably going to make sure that their trade's either gone or not involved in it, so it doesn't screw up a 4-hour drive, 8-hour total. You'll never see them back for service again. So the one-off gives you one-off opportunity to make money, and that's whatever you can make in the front, because you'll never get them in the back. And the other thing I start thinking about, these dime a dozen cars, Altimas, the Malibus, all these things with high day supply. Okay, well, if you really step back, why do those cars have high day supply? Well, because the people that buy them are these buy here, pay here's, these subprime type dealers that are good because they have good spread. And guess what those guys do? They sit on them, they price them high. And so when they're at 110% because they got to cover their discount, right? And they don't care if it sits at 120 days. Guess what that does to day supply? Well, it makes it look like a slow mover. What's it look like when you price it a grand? Then you got to be at 88% of market to sell it. 88% of what? 88% of that 120% of that buy here, pay here. And think about that 20, 30, 25 grand Malibu, right? Nobody's driving 2 hours for a Malibu, so it'll be a local buyer. If it's a 2023, they're trading in their 15, right? That's that one-off. They're going to come back for service. So that 200 hour Malibu,
nobody wants it.
They bought them new. It's a high volume car. The Altimas are high volume cars. I'm not saying you stock that all the time. I'm saying look at it differently.
I agree with you. I actually agree with you. However, let's just take these and
I can make $4,000 on a Malibu over the history of that customer versus $2 to $3,000 on that one deal because somebody drove 4 hours away for it.
I get it, but listen, as the used car dealer, I think of Joel Bassam out there at Eastern's Auto. You know Joel? Right? Yeah. They're only selling 1,100 cars, used cars a month at $5,000 pop. I don't know. I think that guy's probably doing some things right, and he's doing a lot of things different from most stores. But let's start with this. You know, I'll never forget, he told me when I went and toured and spent some time with him and his dad, who still sits in the buyer's bullpen still to this day, since 1989. That guy sits there every day, and he's still buying cars, and he loves it. Okay, but here's the thing. I said, so what do you focus on? He says, I don't look at nameplates. I don't care. I don't care. I focus on what turns. That's it. I don't care what brand. I don't care what model. I don't care what this. What is turning, period. And his discipline and his loyalty is to that. A Malibu. Okay, so a car that does not sell is not in demand, does not create growth, so nobody wants it new. No offense, Chevy. Love your Malibu. But if nobody wants it, okay, it's not that Motorola flip phone that Verizon gave you 4 of them. If you sign up, you're not going to resell it for a lot of money. Nobody wanted it new. So I agree with what you're saying. However, let's just take a couple of these things. You certainly don't want to build a business on one-offs. You're going to be, I think, to your point, you're spot on, Jason. But are you going to want a few one-offs on top of your regular volume if you could get it? Of course, right? It's additional money. It's augmenting. Don't you think the big challenge then, Jason, is that instead of really building a successful used car department from the ground up and having one that's built based on data, based on making sure you have the right inventory, right merchandising, right pricing, right processes, don't you think there's an awful lot of reactionary kind of stuff out there that causes somebody to take, hey, I'm going to try that Infinity, or I'm going to try that Jag F type because I sold one 6 months ago and we made $4,000, or I'm going to step up. I know what Manheim, Gals, Black Book, I know what everybody says. This car's worth 20, but I'm going to step up and put 21.5 in it. Don't you think it's a lot of those breaks from doing, honestly, what are the right things to do that creates most of that mayhem?
Yeah. And well, if you're doing the right things, do you have mayhem? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying that's my point. If you do what they tell you to do, they may get bored because it's a rinse and repeat. You're going to do that. Starbucks does not deviate. Amazon doesn't deviate. FedEx doesn't deviate.
So
Apple
let's
doesn't deviate.
let's talk about
Talk to
what
me about
you don't want to
shouldn't
deviate
people
off of.
do what you say to do and just do it over and over again?
Okay. Yeah. So here's the thing. So here's what the takeaway. Track that first 30 sale rate to your point. Let's get that, increase that amount. Our goal, 60, 70%. It could be your dollars. It could be your units, 60 to 70%. All right. But then go bucket management. And what I mean by that is the buckets is 0 to 15, 16 to 30, 31 to 45. Because if you're not doing 60 to 70%, you got to figure out why, and you got to catch any kind of bleed through. When I say bleed through, I mean from 0 to 15, they bleed through to 16 to 30, they bleed through to 31 to 45, right? Stop the bleed through. So an example is you can go into Viato or inventory management tool, whatever, VenQ, go pull your sold history and see how many units do you have sitting in that 31 to 45 bucket? Let's just do units instead of dollars. Let's just say you got 30 units sitting in your 31 to 45 bucket. Then I like managing inventory in twos. So there's 3 twos that I like. 2-month aging policy, 60 days. I know you want to debate on that, but let's just hear that out. I don't want any cars over 60 days old. But then I also want to say, I want to look at what I've sold in the last 2 weeks and times it by 2. I don't want to look at a rolling 30 days. That can throw me off. 2 weeks ago, we had a strong finish. We've started out slow. So if I can look, I got 30 units in that bucket, 31 to 45. In the last 2 weeks, I've sold 10. So if I stay at that last 2 week sale pace, I'm only going to sell 20 in 4 weeks with a bucket that has 10 or 30, right? 30 in, on pace to sell 20. You're 10 units off pace. That's what we call work the facts. That's this right here, this book, WTF, work the facts. Go to Amazon or workthefacts.com. Anyways, that's a factual situation on your butt. So if you're not, a shameless plug. So it's $12.95. It's not much. Anyways, so you go,
money, by the way.
This is all in there. Track this stuff. It's free. You can do it yourself. You don't have to buy our services. Just a $13 book. Now, so 30 units on pace to sell 20. That's a factual problem. You need to know that, and you need to attack those 30. Okay, that's it right there. 0 to 30. Track your 0 to 30 sale rate. Get 67% in the first 30 days, and then watch any bleed through and go, okay, I got 50 cars only on pace to do 30. Go attack that bucket and get that sale rate back up to what you're carrying. If you can do that, the rest fall into place, because that impacts that fresh sale rate impacts turnaround time, good photos and descriptions, adjusting faster to the current market. Give it 5 days if you want to ask 105 and then start dialing that thing down. If you're getting leads, increase contact ratio. So it impact that first 30 strategy impacts service turnaround to lead management to marketing, to again, what's selling on your lot. The trucks are sitting, but compact SUVs are moving. Go buy more compact SUVs, because that's the other thing you want to do. Every segment, at least segment. I got 30 trucks on pace to sell 20. Get the trucks moving. Compact SUVs, I got 10 in stock. I was on pace to sell 20. I need 10 more of those, right? So by doing that, you're going to be able to me, and you can do that with your current system, is do not deviate off of that. First 30, bucket management.
So again, you're not going to get a WTF out of me about your book WTF. I have the book. It's worth the $13. In fact, send them 15. and it'll be
There you
worthwhile.
go. Yeah.
So good karma. But here's the
Awesome.
thing. So number one, the first 30 days, there is no argument with that. It's 100%. Number two, the 2-week turn is absolutely on point. 100%. You can't argue anybody with that. It just flat works. Number three, when you're talking about the bleed through to the buckets, it's critical. But let me add a couple layers to that. And I want to ask you your opinion. Like I said, I look at data exhaustively. I've been looking at data for nearly 40 years. And I could tell you something without exception. You give me any dealer group in the United States, bar none. Pick a dealer, pick 6 dealers, pick 100 dealers, and I can aggregate the data. When I look at the average, if I say, okay, I'm going to look at every deal you've sold, and now I'm going to filter it by just the deals that were over 30 days old. First of all, the difference in average gross between the deals over 30 days old and under 30 days old is typically at least $1,300. Start there. You want to make money? Learn to sell cars in under 30 days. By the way, they won't sell in under 30 days for starters unless you have the right type of inventory. And then we can go from there. And to Jasen's point, it's got to be merchandise, right? And priced right. Second thing, if you look at the cars that are sold over 30 as a group, no matter how small a group or how big of a group, Jasen, it's a negative number. Might be negative 80, might be negative 500, might be negative 1,500. Third thing, every 15 days, I love your buckets. I'm going to hit that in a second. I can't stand when people have a bucket that's 0 to 30, 30 to 45, 45 to 60, 60 and over. By the way, by the time you hit that 60 plus bucket, you've taken so much gross that you made off of the under 30s, you're killing yourself. So the buckets, I don't want this to get lost on anybody. Anybody and everybody out there, you've got to not just listen to what Jasen said, under 30, listen to what he said on 2-week turn, but this is critical. Your buckets have to be 0 to 15, 15 to 30, 30 to 45, 45 to 60 and out. So, and we could set aside the discussion on the 60-day turn, but don't you think having the 15-day increments and buckets, Jasen, rather than 0 to 30, and then going to 15 is a big deal? A lot happens from 15 to 30 days.
Oh yeah. And right now, anybody that's pricing cars will see it. You'll be at 98% within 5 to 7 days. That 98 turned into 100. So you don't see that if you're just looking at 30-day gap going, I got to give a car a shot. Okay, for what? You're just going to let that car end up bleeding through. Now, that's the other aspect that I wanted to mention before, because again, going back to some of the philosophies that's been preached out there, was looking at a rolling 30. I don't like that. Again, example would be if it's mid-August or mid-September right now, let's say it's September 15th. If I roll back 30 days, I'm catching August 15th. Now, if my end of the month finishes strong and I had a strong finish to August, September 15th, it's telling me to still stock, even though the first half of September has been slow and I'm going into a slower season, and then I'm jammed up by October. So I do not like a rolling 30 because of that. And then the second thing, gets preached out is like let's take Viato, for example. The turn in Viato is based on average age of your current inventory. And this brings back to your point about the 0 to 30 bucket. Well, if you have an aging policy, let's say 60 days, and your average age of your current inventory is 30. Let's say you have 100 in stock, average age is 30. It's going to show a 12 turn. So I used to go to dealers like, wow, you're on pace to sell 100 cars. Your turn's at 12. And like, no, I'm selling 70. And I'm like, that makes no sense. But it's only because now they could be selling at day 45. Right? I have an aging policy, so I give it 30 days and I start blowing it out after day 40 and get it off by day 60, and my grosses are down. And that's the biggest challenge I saw. It's like, okay, so the turn is not a real turn. If I got 100 and I'm only selling 70, I'm not at a 12 turn. It's not even looking at my sales at all. It's just saying, hey, you got a good aging policy and you're there at 12. And then tomorrow I go buy 10 cars today, right? And tomorrow, those 10 cars hit 1 day old. My turn goes from 12 to 15 overnight, and I look even better. But in reality, now I got 110 cars still pacing 7.
There's so many false pieces of data out there. I agree with you. Now, let me ask you to tackle this 60-day thing. Here's my problem with it. If people were approaching things like Starbucks or FedEx or Apple, it honestly wouldn't be a problem. But the reality is 90% of stores aren't. here's the big challenge as I see it. If I have 60 days to sell a car, in other words, let's just do the math. You say, David, go buy me a car. Here's 20 grand. All right. I take your 20 grand. I buy a car. How long can I keep this car, boss? 60 days. How many times can I spend your 20 grand in a year? Six. I don't know any profitable used car departments that are turning inventory 6 times. You really have to be turning it 15, 18 or more times. Would you agree, first and foremost, that the top performing dealers, both in terms of volume and profit, are turning their inventory at least 12 times or more a year, 15, 18 or more? Is that fair or not?
True turns, yes. But I mean,
okay.
So
okay. Wait a minute. You're still on the witness stand. So I'll let you be the prosecuting attorney in a minute. Second thing, my big issue is this. I've come to the realization when I study people on the floor and I look at how they handle appraisals, I believe that we miss so many possible acquisitions when somebody's in the dealership because we are considering that 60-day turn. It's the 29th of August. I'm looking at a car that has the value of 25 grand. Going to be a book change, Jason, in a week. I got to knock that car for the book change. I'm going to keep that car maybe as much as October 29th. Oh, it's another book change. Oh, I got to hit it for that book change. And then I'm going to hit it for recon. Now, I complain to my dealer every day that recons cost too much. It's averaging 1,500. I hit the customer for 2 grand. I hit them harder than I'm complaining the amount from my dealer. So I got a car that was 25 grand, and all of a sudden, I've hit the car 21.5 or 21. I'm going to miss that car the vast majority of the times, period. Now, if you're like Michael Boro at Honda World, they're spinning cars in 14 to 15 days. That's the average. Is he going to have to hit my car for 2 book changes? No. Guess what? You lose. Because you're basing your appraisal process, your mindset on a 60-day hold, I believe it's adversely impacting your ability to look at cars the right way, number one. Number two, you're telling me that you really want to deliver a spectacular experience. We're obsessed with the customer's experience. Well, then why are you trying to rip my car? Because the perception of the customer is you're trying to rip my car. And 3, as the customer, why is it my problem? Why am I getting penalized because you haven't figured out how to turn inventory in under 30 days? This is my problem with the 60 days. It's not the fact, Jason, that somebody actually has a car on their lot for 60. It's kind of what it causes, what it results in. Could you just give me your thoughts on that?
I get that. But here, I'll take a page out of Tommy Gibbs' book. Every car deserves a different life cycle. Okay. Example, I mean, I remember it was a while back. I pulled up this Porsche at this dealer's lot, and he's like, hold on, you don't understand. It's got red stitching, analog clock. You're not going to find it, right? I just got to wait for the right buyer. There's certain cars that you allow to sit. Now, when I say 60-day age policy, I'm talking about my 100 units. I don't want very many at all going past 60 days. I want an average age of sale 25 to 30 days. So I want on average, every car has an inventory now, an individual car, I'm not going, hey, I got 60 days to get off of it. No, you don't. This car, I need gone. It's a Malibu where there's a million of them out there. Sell it for $200, get off of it in 15 days, and we'll make the rest up here, like in the back in the trade. But this red stitching analog clock, if we got 60 days to find that one buyer looking for the white with black with red stitching with the analog clock, it might take him 90 days to get here. I'll do that if I own it right? But
hold on.
In a Kramer best in user situation, yes.
There's no business in the world that should base their business on 10% scenarios. No business. So in other words, what you're saying, I want people to make sure you understand what Jason's saying. You're not saying, hey, that's the way you should base everything. You're saying, hey, provided you've got a sub 30-day average age, a 60-day is not going to hurt you. First of all, if you're selling 60, 70% of your cars in under 30, your average turn is more than 12 times a year, do the 60 days. Second thing he's saying, yes, if you find that unicorn car that there's not out there and it's a one of a kind. Yeah. And if you have to go beyond to find that right
Yeah.
buyer. I think what gets lost, as I said before, is people will listen to some of those things, Jason, but then that's the proverbial give an inch, take a mile. Hey, Jason said, if I have that, we could sit down and wait for the next 9 months waiting for the ideal right buyer. That's not what Brian's saying. That's not what you're saying. Correct?
Yeah. Yeah. Not at all. And that goes back to, you should mention the 10% analogy too, is, and what I want to get back to is practical. Yes, if I can have my lot full of the perfect cars, more power to you. But here's the thing: if you're a dealer with 250 new cars, 150 used, you're doing 1-to-1. More likely, you're going to want 50, if not 80% of that used car inventory to be trade-ins. Fair enough, right? I don't want to hardly buy any cars at the auction. I want trades and okay.
10%
So
auction.
again, how much? Okay. How much at that case, and I'm relying a lot of my used car inventory on trade-ins because I'm a decent volume OEM or franchise dealer. I have no control what trades on my lot. I don't. All right. It could be a 2023 Camry with 80,000 miles on it that got traded in because every year they trade out because they drive so much. It could be a Ford Edge. It could be, again, a purple PT Cruiser that comes in for a trade. So yes, ideally I would want the perfect inventory on my lot to be able to turn it. But a lot of times, especially if you want a high percentage of trade-ins on my lot, and now you could pull the trigger or not on private party acquisitions, but just like we're preaching at used car week, buy everything. I don't care if it's a guitar or a $200 car or a $500 car, the win's the win, appraisals drive sales. And then you can pick and choose what you're going to keep on your lot versus getting rid of. But that's a whole other level of conversation because you're talking, again, only about 10 to 20% of dealers are going to be dedicated to that type of buying. So as a whole, 80% of dealers are just going to be 50 to 80% trade-ins, and their hands are tied with what they got. And that's where the discipline of bucket management, first 30, I don't care if it's the wrong car, the right car, because if it's the wrong car, wrong color, wrong equipment, wrong whatever, well, then pricing or money on the hood is going to have to make up the difference to get that thing gone, right? Good video, good content, something. Pricing, you can get off of it. And that's, I just want to reiterate, everybody's preaching about the right car, best in user, whatever. Great. But up until you do what we just talked about, bucket management, first 30, 25-day average sale, let a couple cars bleed through because you're disciplined and clean, then start dictating what can and can't go on your lot. Because if all you're focusing on is I can't get the right cars and I'm just blah, 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 and it just sucks, and you're never going to get to this kind of level.
You know, I want to clear up something else too. I'm not vilifying auction. It's not that I hate auctions in and of themselves. Auctions serve a very important purpose.
Yep.
And if auctions are used correctly, they can be very beneficial. You know, in my dealerships, anytime I had stores, selling a car to through any other means other than an auction was not happening. We sold everything to the auction. I did not allow cars to be laundered from one store to another. It turned 60 days. And so now I'm going to sell it to the sister store over here so I could reset that's not happening.
Peter PayPal.
Yeah, it's not happening. So auctions do serve a purpose. The problem is if they are your main source or one of your major sources of inventory, you've got a problem because the average cost, you can't change this. The average acquisition cost or cost of sale on an auction car is $1,000, $1,200, $1,500 difference from a car that you're buying from the person standing in front of you. And so that's a problem because I have another assertion based on data is that you cannot win in the showroom if you don't win online. So and you can't win online if you're not winning the VDP war. So I remember Brian Finkelmeyer over Viato shared with me one time years and years ago, and I've heard it many times since. The majority of your VDPs are coming from a minority, less than 20% of the cars that you have up there. But this can shift depending on what percentage of your inventory. Honestly, if 80% of your cars in inventory are the kind that turn in under 30, you're going to get a decent number of VDPs across the board. But if you have a big variance, you might have cars that you get 100 plus VDPs and other ones again, depending on where you're priced in the market, you may get very little. Do you agree with the fact that if you don't win online, you can't win in the showroom? And do you agree with the fact that maximizing VDPs is key?
Yes, but I hate talking about VDPs of the fact that now, if we want to talk about VDPs and call to actions on that page, that's one thing. But in order to get a VDP, you got to get an SRP. Our job as a used car manager, to get my car in front of as many eyeballs as possible. That's why I put my dealership on Main Street in town, right? So I got drive-by traffic. But now drive-by traffic's catching eyeballs. So that's another strategy that I preached for, and I've done studies for this for 15 years, is what I call flat pricing. I don't like pricing at $29,995. What I'm doing by doing that, it's called psychological pricing. One, it's a bidding war, because what I'm doing at $29,995 is I'm causing that customer to round down to about 29 grand. Oh, I can get this car at 29 grand. So when they come in after my pencil, $29,995 plus doc, plus tax, whatever, I'm at 32.1. They're going, whoa, what the hell? That's too high. I'm like, what do you think? Well, I'm thinking 29. And you can't logically say, where'd you come up with that number? Because you psychologically set them up. But the second thing, biggest point to this, I'd price a car at 30 grand because people go online right now. They're on a budget. They say, I want a truck. I want a truck $30,000 to $35,000, right? And because there's too many trucks to weed through. So when they say, hey, I want a truck at $30,000 to $35,000, that $29,995, you're out of that search for a $5 clip. If you raise the price $5, you all of a sudden become the cheapest car in that 30 to, once he goes 30 to 35,000, sort at lowest to highest, you're there. And guess what you also get? That guy says, hey, I want a 25 to 30 grand truck. Well, you're there too. You get double exposure. So your job first is to get the SRPs before you can worry about VDPs. You got a sunroof. If it's not in your comments, you're out. Okay. Because customer says, I want an F-150 with sunroof, you're gone. So that comes back to the right marketing for the right, it doesn't matter, good car, bad car. Give me a bad car. I got a roof. I got nabs. I got captain's chairs. I got 30 grand price point. They're going to find my car no matter how they're searching for this vehicle. So get the SRP first, then you get the VDP with a good price, good thumbnail. Now, so that one strategy right there will double your exposure on all your inventory. I like moving at $500 clips. Meaning if I'm at 30 grand, I'm going to go with 29.5 and so forth. I think of a chess player. It's like, if I go into V-Auto or inventory tool, say I want to price at 100% of market and it spits out 30,879. Well, I'll be at 31. Okay. And I'm going to go 30,000 because I know chess player, I'm looking at move 3 or move 5 before I do move 1. So I'm at 31 grand knowing I'm going to get the 30 grand by day 20 because that gets me 10 days to get off this car. 30 grand is going to put me at 97%. And so I'm going to 31 it. Now I'm going to go 30,005. That price reduction maybe get some activity, and then 30,005 to 30 grand, and boom, all of a sudden the activity pumps. So yes, I agree with you. VDPs are a matter, but also it comes into again the lead management. To your point, what I do know is half your leads are on just 10% of your inventory. Okay,
That's
you
my
got
point.
100 cars.
Boy.
10 cars are getting 50. I got a dealership. I pull up. 2 cars got 57 leads between the two of them. One had 38, one had 19 leads on 2 cars. 57 calls and emails are going to be done on just 2 cars. And the other thing is what we're finding is half your inventory has no leads at all. So what do you do there? You just drop the price. You got a 30-day-old car with no leads at all. And so the other things we preach is recycle.
I sell the car. I'm out. I spin out of it.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. If a customer came in on a sold car, I'm going to slow him down and try to switch them. Oh, that sold last night. Do you just need that F-150? Looking for a 40 grand truck. I got this Ram. Let me show it to you. I don't know about Ram. All right, hold on one second. You just pull it up and show it to him, right? So why aren't we doing with that our internet leads? So if I've got a 30-day-old lead car and I have no leads, you can go wholesale if you want. You can drop the pricing you want. But if you actually looked at recycling your old leads, you might have 10 people that were looking for a 30 grand truck, right? So here you are at 30 grand, you're at 90% of the market, it's 35 days old, no leads. But before you drop the price, there's 5 people in your database that were looking for a 30 grand truck that sold. Hey, Mr. Smith, that Ram sold. Did you need a Ram? You open other trucks. I got this nice F-150. So what we call switch leads. 60 to 70% of the dealer's current leads are on cars no longer in stock. If I take 60 days of your leads, I'm telling you, and you got 1,000 of them, 700 of them can't buy the car they acquired about 2 weeks ago. It's sold. So no wonder they're not calling you back. The car's gone. Well,
And no wonder the salesperson's not calling them,
yeah,
isn't it? The salesperson's going to think in their mind that car sold, that's done.
yeah.
But you're bringing up something really important that I think a lot of dealers miss, and probably the vast majority of salespeople. Yeah, the car that the lead called on is gone. Why don't we put them on a different car? That doesn't mean that that lead's dead. It just means that car's gone off
Yeah.
the table. So this is one thing that you do at Lot Pop. I think that to me, you're the preeminent solution out there for people to think differently, to be able to take those leads. They spent so much money getting those leads. Why would we just pitch them and throw them away? Why would you not just say, we take the leads in the database, 60% of the leads we're getting are on a car that's sold already. Let's find them something that's similar and at least put ourselves back in the game. I love that you do that, Jason. I think that that's such a, I hate the term game changer, but it is. It's a real game changer, honestly, for people in dealerships.
Well, not only that, it's that because, switch leads, take them from one vehicle to the other. They have to buy something else. It's not the new car factory. It's got to be different color, different miles, different equipment. So why not be from you, right? More likely, it's a segment and budget that they're looking for. I want an SUV around 400 a month, which is 20 grand. What do you got, right? So put them on whatever you got and don't give up on the lead, because that 30-day lead might have wrecked his car and totaled it 30 days ago, started shopping, but he just got his check. But you're looking at your CRM going, a 30-day lead, I haven't got a hold of him. Well, he hasn't called you back because he hasn't got his check yet. And he's on a car that's sold, move him to lost. In the meantime, he just got his check today and he's back in the market again. Okay. And he has to buy something else. So Mike, but the other thing about that is, you got to make sure going back to that 31 to 40 bucket I was talking about, you got 30 cars only on pace to sell 20. Well, if you happen to have any leads on these 30 cars, how often would you want to call and email these leads? Well, probably every day, every other day to get your sell rate back up. But here's the problem with CRMs. They only manage leads based on the age of the lead. Again, you can't even go into a CRM and say, give me my leads on my 31 to 45-day-old cars. One, you can't even do that. But two, your CRM is going to say, here's a 50-day-old lead. You don't need to call them from another week because you called them a week ago. We only call those people every 2 weeks. So don't worry about that. In the meantime, I'm going, hold on. You got a problem in 31 to 45. You got leads in here. I don't care if it's a 30-day lead or a 2-day lead. Increase the contact ratio so I can get my sell rate back up so I'm not pulling the trigger on price, right? Because all we're going to do is drop price to stir the pot versus no. So that's the other thing we're solving is like, quit managing leads based on the age of lead. You don't know if they're 2 days out or 2 months out. No rhyme or reason.
Well,
buying cycle. And
I love that you said that, Jason, because most people will tell you, most data will tell you that from the time somebody says, I'm going to go buy a car to the time they buy a car, the length of time is anywhere from 10 and a half to 12 and a half weeks. So why is it that we've got it in our brain that if I got the lead in August, that was an August lead, that's no good anymore? What are you talking about? What if some of those leads, that was the first week they started that journey? They've got another 80 days to go before they might buy something. So it's like, it reminds me of the old thing back when we're desking deals, when a salesperson would come in and they say, I got this guy who wants to be on a silver with they'd say, they want a white on beige car. And I go, okay, well, he said, we don't have one. I said, did you show him the white on dove gray one, the white on gray one? No, he doesn't want that. I said, can we let him say no? I don't mind if he says no, but when did you become his advocate and his agent? Can we let the customer actually have the opportunity to say no? So I think to this day, these are things kind of with what I opened the session with, searching for happiness for millions of years, searching for answers on used cars for decades. It's not as hard as we make it, is it, Jason?
No, I mean, two things I'll show you. What's more important, a $500 car payment to the guy or the Ram badge, right? Yes, he wants a Ram, but man, if he can't get one for 500, I'm sure he'd take a Ford. He probably won't take a Toyota, but that's fine. Let him choose that, right?
Let him say no.
Yeah, yeah, and we don't get that we don't give that opportunity. So we just want to give up on that lead because it's just too much work. I got all these leads on my age cars that I'm busy with, that age car that were blown out. I got 10 leads. I'll call an email there and I won't spend time on, yeah.
So Jason, can we hit one other subject before we wrap up?
Sure.
Okay, ready. So appraisals. One thing we haven't touched on is appraisals. Dale made famous the term sales velocity. I think appraisal velocity today is critical. In other words, when I look at almost every store across the country, I find that they're not even appraising half the cars they should. Let me give you the math. They sell 100 cars. They're writing up about 240, 225 to 240, 45% closing ratio is pretty average. What they'll say is, I sold 100 cars and we did 80 appraisals and we took in 32 for a 40% look to book. And I say, look to book is a garbage statistic. It's meaningless unless you also combine it with an appraisal to write up statistic. So let me give you an example. If somebody appraised 40% of the opportunities and had a look to book of 80%, 32 cars, wouldn't you rather have somebody that was appraising 80% and had a 30% look to book, right? Of the higher number, the number of write-ups. So that'd be 160. They would have taken in 48 cars, 50% more cars. So my question to you is, first of all, how important is a dealership's ability to maximize just the sheer number of appraisals the way CarMax does, where they're targeting to appraise 100%, not of the write-ups, but of the people that walk in the door? Most stores are lucky to see 40% of their actual write-ups getting appraised. What's your thoughts on appraisal?
100%. That's the other number that was missing out of a lot of these inventory management tools, because they'll just look at how many appraisals, how many you take in. You did 100, took in 50, that's a 50% look to book. But my question is, well, how many deals did you do for that 100? If you did 300 deals and only did 100 appraisals, that's a 30% when at least half the deals have an appraisal involved, right? So yeah, if I can—
That's 600 write-ups, by the way.
Yeah. So if I can increase the amount of appraisals to write-ups, because your salespeople, hey, why don't you call CarMax and see or why don't you try to sell it yourself?
Thank you.
Right? And they're taking it out of the deal. The other thing that I was sitting there thinking about was, and I meant to mention it on the RAM switch thing, when we're talking about switches, and I'm bringing it back to appraisals, is we look at leads and we're looking at how many leads come with a trade information, which is very low. I'll tell you that stat here in a minute. But when I watch a customer trade in a Civic to an F350, trade in a Range Rover to a BMW 3 Series, it's like, they're going from Range Rover to a 3 Series. So you're telling me you can't change them from an F-150 to a Ram? I mean, come on, they're all over the place here. But that's the other thing, is our leads. That's another number I'm trying to grab dealers to look at, and it's hard to in a CRM. But how many of your leads, your 300 leads this month, have a trade-in information on it? And it's down in the low single to double digits, 8 to 12%. When I'm sitting there going, hold on a second, well, why is that? Well, when they go to autotradercars.com, all it asks is for name, email address, phone number, right? It's not asking if they're trying to trade a car or anything, as far as when they're
buying or leasing, what's their credit score?
Yeah. Then the last thing the person that gets that lead wants to do is throw off an appointment. All they want to do, hey, it's cars here. When's a good time to bring it into? They don't want to bring up trade-in, because all of a sudden they're going to throw up, well, how much I want. I don't want to come in now, So, but you have to bring it up, because the customer is going to go to CarMax, Carvana, get a number on it, go to the dealer down the street. You miss that opportunity. Again, how many total deals versus write-ups?
No appraisal, no deal.
Versus write-up. Now, how can I increase that? Well, go look. Take your leads to trade-in information from 10% to 40%. And the other cool thing, when you're calling leads for 30 days on this Ram and they're not answering the phone, stop calling about the Ram. Say, hey, I know I've been bugging you out that we have in stock, but I noticed you're trading in this Camry. Man, we need a nice car. I don't care about you buying the Ram anymore. Can I put a number on your Camry, right? But we're not having these conversations. So yes.
I love that you said that. I love that you said that, because I ask every dealer, I said, what percentage of your salespeople love making follow-up calls on unsold leads? It's 0 to 10%. Why is that? They're not very good, and it's the lowest success rate activity they will do today. And then I say, well, let me ask another question. What percentage of the customers you're asking them to call want to hear from them? And that number is always 0%. Why is it? Because you're calling me, and 4 other salespeople are calling me, and you're all trying to get us to come back down so I can
buy
give
something from you
money. But what if I said, if you have an appraisal, now you don't have to make sales follow-up calls. You can make acquisition calls. You're not
Sure.
trying to get their money. You're trying to give them money. And now you've turned the table where they perceive they have control. You just said that is perfect. Last but not least, so AccuTrade. I know you're a big fan of AccuTrade.
Mhm.
Biggest thing I love about AccuTrade is simple. It's just simple and it's selfish. I want to appraise 80% of every customer pay, 80% of every warranty RO, and 80% of every human being that walks in. To do that, I have to be fast, transparent, and accurate.
Yes.
And I don't see any other tool. So in other words, what I'll tell dealers, use vAuto, use VinQ, both solid inventory management. But you need to have something that's going to allow you and your people to not have to rely on Bob, the used car manager, to appraise the car, because Carvana and CarMax bought 2.5 million cars, and Bob never looked at any cars. Technology did. So is that what you love about? Tell me, is that
Yeah.
the thing about AccuTrade that makes it so different?
Yeah, and because again, it's an acquisition tool. It's known as an acquisition tool, right? Obviously, it can morph into other things like a pricing tool and so forth. But it's known to be able, and it's not. What I like it too is breaking down that, to your point about, oh, I got to adjust for a book or I got to adjust for this. It also breaking it down to like, hey, this year make and model is known for this type of repair, so prepare for that kind of stuff and knowing what you're getting into. Plus the best and user part of it too, the aspects of it. But it's funny because I was just while you were talking, I was digging in. I've got a dealer, and I wanted to go back to this lead on appraisal ratio. This dealer is one of the largest in their states. Okay, Texas is a large state. This is a dealer is one of the largest. It is the largest in that state. They have 2,000 leads in 60 days. Of those 2,000 leads, only 80 have trade information on it. 80. But again, if you had an AccuTrade or something that you could plug these appraisals in, you could shoot them some numbers.
Jason, isn't that why? Is because the reality is the current appraisal process, with the staffing they have in the current process, you cannot appraise those 2,000. But if I have an acquisition technology like AccuTrade that allows me to do it in minutes, not 15, 20 minutes, I could do it in 3 to 4 minutes and be accurate, whether I use the OBD2 or not, then I can do it. And so to your point, check this out. I have a dealer, they kind of took that challenge. They said, I want you to call everybody that didn't buy a car from you. And I want you to find out, I just want you to say one thing, two things. Congratulations. I'm so sorry I wasn't able to help you meet the objective of what you wanted, but I'm delighted you got a car. Just one question. Can we still buy your car? And when they say, I traded it in, I want you to go out and find the appraisal. You know how many appraisals he found? 0. Every one of these people traded their car in, and this dealership appraised 0. So to me, this acquisition technology, when you put that together with what you're doing for dealers and teaching them this 30-day turn, teaching them to not have the bleed through, teaching them the 2-week way of looking at things instead of a 30-day turn, as well as a couple of other things that you've got in the WTF. You put those things together, people, and guess what? What seems complex, difficult, and unsustainable becomes, in my brain, very doable. Do you agree, Jason?
100%. Yeah. And that's our goal. Just a couple clicks, give you your actionable items, work the factual problems. Your trucks are sitting. What do you want to do about them? And oh, by the way, here's your truck leads. Let's increase contact rates. Pretty simple stuff. But, making in software, making the dealers and the managers make those hard decisions is a tough part.
All right. Well, listen, you've been very nice to you've been so nice to give us so much of your time. I don't want to hold you up. I know you've got family and you've got clients and prospective clients out there, but just a speed round real quick. Number one, what was your first car of all time? First car you ever owned?
Toyota Corolla that I shared to my sister. That was a stick. The first one I bought myself was a 87 Porsche 944, and I sold it by myself too at 19 years old.
Wow. Wow. What an iconic car that 944 turned out to be. 944. And then remember the 928 in Risky Business. It's just a car. Yeah. Okay. That's cool. What's your favorite driving song of all time?
Ooh, I put a record together. You do like Supertramp or something, like Welcome to America or something. Yeah, something
I
like
love
that.
it. All
Or
right.
Steve Miller, if you go on a road trip or something like that.
Stevie
Those
the Guitar
albums.
Miller, little Jungle Love, maybe.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. And
all right.
show my
Third
age.
thing, um, just for people that don't know you, you're married, you have kids.
5 from 33 to 8.
Wow. 33 to 8. So I've got from 8 to 41. So if we were playing liar's dice, you and I would be the last two guys standing at the
Yeah.
bar.
Celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary, September 4th. We celebrate that.
Congratulations.
We'll be 30 years together come February. So yeah.
That's really remarkable. Well, congratulations. I got to tell you, I'm really proud to know you, and I'm really thankful for you and Lot Pop being in this business. I know that there's an awful lot of dealers that feel the same way. For anybody that wants to get a hold of Jasen, yeah, you could find him on LinkedIn. You could go to davidspisak.com, look up this episode. There will be show notes. And I'll tell you what, the first people that hit me up, first 10 people that hit me up, I will buy WTF and have it shipped right to your door through Amazon. Doesn't cost you even the $13, which would have been the best investment you made. Any other way that they get a hold of you, Jasen?
Cell numbers 314-568-2754 or just jrice@lotpop.com.
So feel free to take that cell number and write it on the wall of the bathroom, as long as it's in a dealership. Jasen won't mind as long as it's in the dealership. You won't mind. Jasen, you've been so awesome to talk to, and I love what you do. And I really appreciate you taking the time to give your insight for people that are still to this day looking to figure out, like most dealers, how to master and create a sustainably successful, profitable used car department. Thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it. Thanks, Jasen.
Thanks for the banter. Thank you.
And of course, I love the back and forth. I'll do it with you anytime. For those of you that have taken the time to listen, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Please take this episode, share it with anybody, any dealer, any manager you know who's trying to figure this out, because this will help them go along the way with what Jasen shared today. And please, by all means, take the time to download, subscribe, and leave a review, good, bad, or ugly. I learned from them all. So with that, one more time, nothing but gratitude. Thanks so much. I'll see you next time on the David Spisak Show.